Khalid, thank you for joining us on the Corona Chat. Really
Thank you,
excited to
Elena.
have you on to hear about your perspective. For those of the people obviously that may be listening that don't know who you are, can you say a couple of words on who you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Khalid Azzouzi. I am French with a Moroccan background. So I'm a biomedical engineer. So I've been working, for years now in medical devices where I started my career in R&D, where, I was part of development of, let's say, complex systems,
Yeah.
like for robotic surgicals, all of that. So small quantities, but complex units. And we had different positions from project management in validations, in design transfer, etc., and supplier management. And then, I moved step by step to systems, organization. And this is where I get one time inside the real regulatory/quality environment. So I then moved to different companies where small and big companies where I had to develop the organization to certify the companies and yeah, and that's basically what I did the last years. And the last experience was a huge company, a big multinational that is in, it's Nestle, where I spent a couple of years to establish, the global organization for medical devices in regulatory and quality. So and now I am in Axiom. It's a small company today. Where we are developing, the enteral nutrition in the enteral nutrition area, different products, and we produce also our devices.
Okay, so Axiom is a small company that's in the enteral nutrition kind of space. And obviously on the Corona Chat, some people might be thinking, okay, so why are we talking? But there has been an impact, right, with the COVID crisis, specifically in that market of medical devices.
This is correct, because the enteral nutrition, so you have the whole therapy systems, and this is used in home care and also in ICUs. So both, for both, you see, for the coronavirus, what is very important to see is to keep is that the patient, they need to be fed, and you have IV way or you have enteral nutrition that is lots of in Europe, for example, it's a lot in enteral nutrition. So you have to guarantee that you continue to provide to the patients this, otherwise they cannot be fed. So it was one of the critical products, or let's say therapy to be continued during this crisis. So yes.
And so as a supplier, what's been the impact of the COVID crisis on your company?
You have your clients coming with the new plans. They have challenges, so you have to be very flexible and see what you can do. But one of the big challenge, Elena, is that we have a factory in Italy, close to Milano, and in January I remember I was there beginning of middle of Jan, and you've been scanned, like what the guys are doing at the airport, they scan you, but it was because this was starting. So we've been from the beginning of this crisis that is from Italy started, in Europe. We've been in the middle, where we had to think about, wow, what's going to be the impacts? What can we do to keep, something that is safe for workers? Because, there was no way that we continue to work if there is, unacceptable risks for them. So we spend a lot of time to think about how we're going to be organizing, the production site. And we had also there, or development or regulatory teams or quality and many other functions. So we start to split a bit and say, okay, some of them, they all go in smart working. So they can all work from home. Why? We frankly, in my team, we already started to develop this. So it was great, was not so difficult. Some other, they were not used to that. They had to do it. But, the company in general is very positive in smart to support smart working. So the way the dynamics had to be completely reviewed with the best of our knowledge was a real challenge, to continue to keep, the business running and make sure we can supply the product, because, as we said, it's very critical for the COVID that, they continue to get the products. So.
And then obviously you said that you're responsible for regulatory, quality and clinical, right?
Yes.
In Axiom. So in from that perspective, what have been the challenges?
Very good question. It's you see, regulatory or mission let's say in quality and all is the same, is patient safety. So you have to guarantee the patient safety. So in the other side, you cannot compromise and say, okay, for patient safety we need product, because they need to be fed. And you have to take in account also the safety of the workers and the safety and the environment and all the risks behind this pandemic situation. So we had to rethink, uh, or take our decisions in the context of a crisis. And that's something where I remember a couple of meetings with the teams where I was telling them that you need to stop thinking as before. You have now to think in a crisis mode. The regulatory, the decision has to be always taken in a context. This is a different context. So we had to be flexible to make sure that we will not block, the products or the supply to some clients just because, we have to wait this and that and that. We had to merge and get immediate, escalation process that it goes to the CEO that will support. And we are very lucky because, we have a board that is very close to the patients and that help us to facilitate and set up a good organization. So was an example.
And that's really interesting because I think speaking to various different people coming from all different areas, everybody has spoken about kind of the importance of being flexible and being able to pivot in a crisis. In terms of kind of like the future of regulatory and the soft skills maybe that you're seeing would be needed from regulatory professional in the future, do you see a shift towards a certain direction in terms of what generally you imagine would make a great regulatory quality professional?
Yeah, for sure. It's this situation is gonna be not only for regulatory but in general for the whole world of we'll have to think about some risks, some risk management, not only from a company perspective to take in account that, for example, for the product we have to we look at a lot about the risk management for the product, but what are the risks to not supply, and those type of things. Maybe there will be some new models that will be set up that should be regulated, in my opinion, where as regulatory we need to advocate to make sure that in terms of there is a kind of organization that is set up from a global way, but also from each local countries, that they should have a kind of limitation, not also stock levels, I don't know, for each countries to support the clients on this side, but also the authorities. As I told you, we've been also contacted by our clients with their new plans, but also by the authorities sometimes. You have the contact with some people that are in the authorities for registrations or for vigilance cases. Sometimes it can happen, and now the same people can contact you and ask you, do you have products for us, please? Because can your client support us because we are in trouble? So was something quite strange. So I think that this whole new situation will have to be to be really understood by everyone, that this is not something that will not happen again. We have to make sure that if this happened, that we are better organized. So we should have some minimum of let's say regulations or whatever to prevent this happening. That's what.
And kind of on the bigger picture, right? So like on the world of work just generally, and kind of like that sort of setup, what do you think the impact of this crisis will be?
Yeah, so the impact of the crisis is, as said, is that companies will have to think about their supply chain differently, clearly, and there are many areas where sometimes some organization would have not put enough focus because it's not was not really seen as a risk. Where now, it will be a must. It will be a must. We cannot guarantee that this does not happen again, and we don't know what will be the result of this pandemic situation. But we know that many companies had to stop. Also in medical device industry, many companies had to stop, and so there will be consequences. And to avoid this happening, so we will have to think, let's say, think differently. And another thing is that some companies, they were against, they were more traditional and against, smart working, all of that. I have lots of colleagues, we are, in the network that we're talking about. And they were very late. They were in trouble. They were running to find computers because they still have, fixed computers. And so it was crazy for them. So we're a company that were already working in smart working. They were basically able to continue working. Okay, we have some issues because we have Zoom every day, the whole day. So this is something we have to adapt and manage in a different way. But I mean, there are some positive things that will be learned in terms of flexibility and some negative things, that's, we have to think very seriously.
Yeah.
And frankly, Elena, I'm not able to today, to say, what will really happen in the future and to give some guidance. But I think that we will need time, and people will have to discuss and meet and see what can we do to avoid that this happen again, clearly.
Yeah, definitely. I think, from a company perspective, as you said, always need to be looking into kind of the supply chain. That's been a big thing that we've seen also with some of our clients. But then on the other side, obviously, as nasty as this crisis is, there has been positives that have come out in terms of the world of work, in terms of companies being forced to have to, allow smart working, allow people to work from home when before maybe they never had it. And it's going to be interesting to see how they then take those learnings into the future. And in the big picture, for me, it's great because I think that it's going to give companies that embrace that teleworking moving forwards will have access to much better talent, because they'll be much more flexible in terms of where they can get their talent.
Yeah.
So it's really exciting. But look, Khalid, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you, Elena. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Have a lovely day, okay?
You too. Bye-bye. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.